Hey, good evening for most of you. Welcome to Complex Mind, Simple Man. My name is Theus, and we're going to talk about a few things today. And as you can see from the graphic, this is Block the Party. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. We're going to touch on a lot of different topics, but just kind of putting it out there why this episode and why today. So last week, I sat on a panel about the black male voter and what people are getting wrong about us. This was a panel put together by Tracy Carson and Tracy Media, and eventually we got to a conversation I've had probably 100 times. Democrats, Republicans, the two party system, um, whether black voters need a third party, right? And I kept thinking, what if we're arguing about the wrong thing? Um, because I'm not convinced that our biggest problem is that Black America hasn't found the right political party. I'm increasingly convinced that we've put politics ahead of the very things that actually make political power possible. So today, what I will be presenting to you and talking through with my guest is, what if Black America's political problem isn't a lack of representation, but rather it's a lack of organized power outside of politics. So stay with me. Have questions or comments, drop them in the chat. We certainly will appreciate it. And yeah, let's get to it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring Tracy on, and we're going to go ahead and get started talking here. Hey, Tracy. All right, so Tracy, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself to the peoples.
I'm Tracy.
Yes, this is Tracy, the
I've been on here
proprietor.
so many
Yeah,
times. I'm like,
proprietor of Tracy Media. So, so as I was saying in my little intro, last week Tracy got a couple people together, and we had an opportunity to kind of talk about the black male voter and hit on a few topics, and it really did. It caused me to think about a few things, and so this series possibly, but definitely this particular segment is branching off of some of the thoughts that came to me there or that I was presenting but didn't really go really into. So, just getting started, a little housekeeping. If you have topics that you want to explore, you have feedback that you want to drop outside of the chat on the video, please feel free. This is my email address on the screen, complexmindsimpleman@gmail.com. You can go ahead and send that to me that way. All right. So we're going to start first with our first segment, which is the recent black male voters discussion. And one moment here. All right. Um, this is the one I wanted. There we go. So this is the panel that Tracy put together for us last week. I hope you tuned in. If you did not see it, go back and watch it. Don't watch it right now. Go back and watch it. After this post, I will find the link and I will connect it to the comments so that you can see it there too. So, oh, and also like, share, subscribe. Yeah, I forgot. I'm supposed to say that. So I'm trying to become more serious about this. So, guys, please like, share, subscribe, and comment, and comment, and comment. All right. So, in the recent discussion that we had, Tracy, we I noticed that, and it made sense that this happened because we were talking about voting, but we kind of cycled into why the Democrat, Republican, or third party um, is a choice, right? Like it kind of dominated that aspect of the discussion, and for me, and I'm looking off because I have notes. And for me, the question really isn't so much which party or party structure serves us best. For me, it's what do we need to do to gain leverage and actually be able to participate in politics more effectively. So I'm really more interested in political strategy. So you've had an opportunity, I assume, to look back at your segment. You were certainly there. What are some thoughts that you might want to bring forward as we head in?
Um, it was one of the most eye-opening things that I never took part of. And I'm glad I made the conscious decision to kind of step back and let other people speak. Um, the reason that I did it is because I think one party is certainly guilty of um not exfoliating, that's not the word I want to use. Um hyper they're exalting, uplifting one gender over another. They're definitely guilty of uplifting the Black female and denigrating the Black male, to the point of blaming them when their preferred genocide candidate doesn't win the election, when over 80% of Black males did vote. Um, it was something I was getting really tired of. And I thought, yeah, I could be a part of the discussion, but you know what? Let that be men's fault. Let the men folk do that. Let them do that because I just feel like, I've always done it with females, and I'm like, no, not this year. It was just something that said, this is a voice that we need to hear and to get the facts out there. 80% of Black males voted for Kamala Harris. Stop calling Black males chauvinists or misogynists. They are not. 80%. Now, it wasn't the 96%. I mean, Black females that we just went all out. We just said, bump it, we're going. But 80% is better than what did Trump get? 12%?
Yeah, it's like I mentioned in the segment. You know, stop blaming us for the things that aren't us. Like you blame us for what is us. But be accurate and be more proportionate about it. But here's the thing. I don't view the political system, whether it be Democrat, Republican, third party, just the machine of politics in America. I view it to be adversarial towards our community anyway. So when you come at it from where I'm coming from, then it does make sense that they're going to try to scapegoat us. But that's why we have to push back. Because if over 80% of Black male voters who voted for Kamala Harris, then leave us alone. Because that's higher than anywhere else that you could go
That's
look.
higher than, that's higher. I don't know how many Black males voted for Hillary, but 80%, heck, if I could get 80% of any one group to vote for me, I'm having a good day. I'm having an excellent day. But it
Yeah,
was just this whole, you had to vote the way, and that's what I don't like, and that's why I wanted to do the forum. It's like they're saying you have to vote the way we tell you. And you're making it seem it's like Black men can't think for themselves. And I'm like, you know what? This not no, not on my watch.
yeah, and I appreciate you for bringing our voices forward. And it is funny. It does present two issues for me. Um, that over 80% of the Black male vote went to Kamala Harris. That over 90% of the Black woman vote went to Harris. And we traditionally, if you take a blended average of our community, we traditionally are like 95, 93, 95. Um, all the time for the Democratic Party. So one, it wasn't even about Kamala. We would have voted the exact same way, regardless of who.
If it was Biden or
Right. It could have been
Gavin
Joe Blow.
Newsom or Pete Buttigieg, it
Right.
wouldn't have mattered. You were getting 80%. You're doing good.
Right. But that tells two sides of the issue, though. So one, that the Democratic Party thinks that they're entitled to our votes as a community, Black, I mean, whether it be male or female. the Democratic Party feels like it's entitled to our vote. And that
That
is a
is
problem.
that part.
That is a problem because we've been voting the way that we've been voting, in my view, for a reasonable. It's reasonable why we've voted the way we have, because if you only have two choices and one of the choices is aggressively trying to harm you, then yeah, you're gonna vote the other way. And we've done that since we got the right to vote. So when it was the Republicans that were advocating for us, we supported Republicans. When they did the party switch and it became the Democrats who were advocating for us, we voted Democrat. It's a pragmatic way of going at things. Where I still feel that we have an issue is we weren't doing it the right way because we weren't doing it with a desire, intention, or a goal. So we were able to be taken for granted because all you had to do was give us a worse option on the other side. That's all you had to do. And we would go, with the Democrats. So it's a positive from the standpoint of we looked at the field and it was between this guy and this lady. And this guy was very detrimental to anything that we could possibly care for, right? Social safety net, equal employment opportunities, housing, law enforcement, discrimination, all of those things. He was a threat to our safety on. So we voted the way that we voted. And Kamala was the one we would vote for. But then within that, we had the demonization that came with it, that if there was any bit of drop off, now we're being disloyal. Now we're doing something wrong.
Well, I mean, look at what happened when I'm gonna say y'all's Messiah, but he's not your Messiah, he's definitely mine. Obama chastised, but you don't support black women. How are you gonna sit here with your tell your cousin Pookie, yeah, you are telling these men, boy, bye.
The best way
I
to
do
put
think
that,
that was intentional. I do think that I still that's my conspiracy theory. Because I don't think he wanted her, but that's me. That's me.
well, I think that it was intentional from the standpoint of take Obama, who is the first black president, did the job well, all things considered, did the job well. And he says that to us. In fact, that wasn't the only time that he talked down to us. That wasn't the only time.
He told
And
us y'all to pull your pants up. I'm like, bro,
and
you
be
just
better
keep
fathers and
going.
all that stuff, right? So that was that. And I'm not going to hold that against him except to make the point that I'm making. So that was the good president that treated us that way. It treated us like, you owe us your vote, right? So that's him. Now let's bookend him though. Before him, which was during the Hillary Clinton phase of his competition for the nomination originally, you had Bill Clinton basically say that we were ungrateful because we were choosing Barack Obama over his wife. Okay. Now that was that one. Now we come forward. Joe Biden. Everybody knows that one where he was like, you ain't black if you don't vote for me. And when you take them as individual events, it's easy to say, oh, well, that was Bill Clinton letting his latent racism slip out. Or that was Joe Biden letting his latent racism slip out. But when you put all three of these guys together, because you can't use the racism thing on Obama. So now what's the commonality?
Yes, you can.
You can't really use it. No, you can't. He's got a black family, a black wife. No,
White
I'm not going to
grandparents,
entertain.
white
I'm not
mother.
going to entertain him being mixed. I'm not going to entertain it. So
I've never heard him say he black. I have never.
who?
And to Kamala Harris's, I've actually heard her say, I'm black.
Well,
I
that's
ain't
because
never heard
she
him
had to
say,
prove it. He was running a race neutral campaign thing, but that's different. And I'll push back on that every day because it doesn't matter. But for the point that I'm trying to make, though, the thing that's common across all three of them is they were the heads of their party. And all three of them were talking to our community saying, you and your vote belong to us. You do
Yep.
anything else, you're wrong. And that, I think, is a part of voting for a party for almost 30 years at that point without demand. So that's why I'm saying in this phase is making me question it. Guys, and you've heard me say this before, Tracy, the problem isn't voting. The problem is how we vote. And that doesn't mean that the solution is choosing a different party. Maybe it is. But I'm not saying that that's what the solution is. Perhaps the solution is we need to focus on our political strategy. And that's what I want to talk about today. So we're going to move to this next one. So changing political vehicles. Check out my artwork, Tracy. Take that out.
I know
All
AI
right.
going on.
Yeah, go ahead, AI, right?
GB.
But I like this image that I was able to kind of cobble together, because what you see is, remember, we're the Black community looking at this. We're looking at our politics, but as tied in as I believe myself to be, and as tied in as I believe you to be, what are we after as a community? What are we after?
Well, the first thing we had to know is Black people are not a monolith. We are not a monolith. However,
Go ahead.
saying that, because I'm about to contradict myself, but I just want to make sure. I don't speak for the Black community. I speak for Tracy, who is Black. Right? Just want to make sure that's clear. When we look at it, most Black people I know don't even look at third parties. They don't look at them because they don't take them serious. I don't know why, because the third parties are, to me, is the one saying what you actually want, but that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother day. They basically looking at Democrats, bad guys, but they not as bad as Republicans. And I think that's the way we've been voting for so long. It's like, yeah, she terrible, but she not Trump terrible.
Agreed.
Whereas I would say, hey, why don't I just vote for, instead of voting for the lesser of two evils, why don't I vote for the greater good?
And I don't think that third party presents the greater good. So that's the other thing. So let's get into this and ride with me, because I'm going to dissect it, and it's going to include what you just touched on. So first, if we're going to be participating in politics, then there should be a purpose. There should be a demand. It's not like you're just going to do something, right? Because if you're just going out to just vote because you need to vote, then you can't be upset or frustrated by the results that you get from it, because you had no intention behind it, right? So I'm curious. Now, okay, let me back up a little bit. You had mentioned we're not a monolith. I hear that, but the only people I hear that hear say that is us.
Yeah,
yes, we are a monolith, okay? Because when the police department and the criminal justice system engages with us, they don't engage with us as individuals. When you're dealing with the school to prison pipeline, they're not dealing with us as individuals. When you're dealing with the anti-DEI campaign, which was basically shorthand for go get the Black people, right? They're not looking at you as an individual. So when it comes to the political stage, we are a monolith in that we need to function as a group. Now, that group has a lot of different interests within it. And that's where people say, well, I'm not a monolith. Fine. But understand the forces that are against you will not be resisted or defeated by you by yourself. And that's why I say, yes, we are a monolith in that we need to at least be a united front as best as we can. We aren't pursuing, if you look off to the distance on the left-hand side here, we're not pursuing education. We're not pursuing rebuilding our communities and establishing community. And we're not focused on our economics as a group. But
Okay.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
I see where you're going, but here's what I'm gonna say. Because again, eh, this is my question to the Democratic sympathy, the who I call them blue MAGA. I know you hate that term, but I'm gonna keep calling them blue MAGA as long as they keep defending what blues are doing, and then say vote blue anywho, but really they mean vote for who I tell you to vote for. So I'm gonna ask this question. So you remember, let's take a trip back in time when Joe Biden won the presidency. He stood on stage and said to Black Americans that he owed his victory to Black Americans, and he would never forget that when he was in office. What does Joe Biden do? He meets with a group of civil rights leaders making demands. They made demands. Now the group did make demands. They didn't make all the ones I would have wanted, but they did make demands. And we're literally told, now's not the time. When do people become tired of that? Literally, we're being told by Democrats now is not the time. It's never going to be the time, according to them.
Okay, so that's the case with respects to Democrats, because I'm not here to defend any of them, because my point is that none of these are the right answer right now. But given what you just said, how is the third party going to deliver on the very things that you just talked about?
Here's what I would think, and of course we have to assume that all things are equal, right? You have to assume that the third party candidate has the money and the resources and the ballot access that
No,
the other two groups have. No, because ballot
so
access
you're going to
is
create an
key.
artificial
Because
world,
no, if you can't, nobody's going to, it's only like two people I've ever known to be written in as a candidate and actually won their election. One in Alaska and the guy in Buffalo. Those are the only two times I know a write-in candidate has
and the
actually
guy in
won
Buffalo
their
was
election.
technically a Democrat who was trying to take his seat back from the woman who actually beat him.
Yes, and then the Republicans supported her. But what I'm saying is, I have to say all things are equal, right? That third party candidate has an equal chance of getting on the ballot. So that's the first thing I have to assume. So
Okay.
assuming that, because if you don't get on the ballot, the chances of you getting in as writing are very slim. This I'm not saying impossible, but I'm saying you might want to buy a lottery ticket because you got a better chance of hitting that than to be a write-in candidate. So I would say that I'm more, and this is because I travel in third party politics, I'm more likely to believe what they're saying. And I
That's fine,
see
but how do they deliver, Tracy? I want to know, because you're if we're going to say that the Democrats have not delivered and that the third party is the solution and people are wrong for
right,
not entertaining the third party, what will they do to deliver?
they would listen to their constituents, right?
That doesn't deliver. What do they how will they pass legislation?
They can only vote. Okay, so when what context are you talking about? City council? Are you talking about president? Which office are you talking about? Because there's different
Okay, we'll narrow
levels
it
to the
down. Because what the third parties always show up most vocally for, and it makes sense given how our politics work, is the presidential. So
right.
let's say third party, all right, because we got Democrats. We just because we were just complaining about Obama and Biden. Okay, we're not even going to mention Republicans in this moment because it's almost a given that they're hostile to our community. So third party, we're trying to make a case that, why are black people continuing to vote for the Democrats when the Democrats aren't delivering for them? They should be voting for third party. Why? Because if you can't win,
Okay.
how do you win the
So
presidency
here,
first? And then how do you deliver when you're president? Those are my two questions.
well, here's okay. So here's the first thing I would say, because I think we've been doing this kind of the reverse, and we've gotten better in this. We have to send people to Congress so that that president, whoever he or she is, has more support. So let's just say, for example, my preferred candidate, who I wrote his name on the ballot, Dr. Cornel West, actually won the presidency of the United States. First of all, look for a lawsuit to come because the Democrats are petty, the Republicans are petty. That's the first thing. His without that support, he's not going to be successful because he's going to have to do executive orders like for everything. Like every time he's going to have to do because there's nobody to support him. So what I'm
Which
saying
Congress
is,
and the Supreme
right,
Court would strike down.
exactly. So what I'm saying is flip it and get the Congress in first, get Greens and Libertarians and whatever elected to office first, and then run for president, right?
Okay.
Because that's what I'm saying. And it took me a long time to get there. And I still want third party candidates to run for president. Please do. Please do. Because this field we got coming up, they a bunch of jokes. But what I'm saying is I have to, I just did a podcast on my own channel where I was talking about things that I think the Green Party, I was comparing DSA to Green Party. And what I was saying is that the point I didn't get to, I think the Green Party now realizes, oh, we've got to get people to Congress so that we can make it easy to support that president. Because if you
I
don't
agree.
have that, like you said, it's going to be
But
executive orders. They're going to get struck down by the courts. And there won't be anything accomplished because the two, if you've never seen, when you talk about working across the aisle, oh, they'll work across the aisle on that in a hot minute. They'll work. They will form the Legion of Doom versus meets the Justice League of America. They'll do it so fast, and I don't think in the current context any third party person is going to be successful. One, because again, I think lawsuits are going to take up the entire presidency because I just don't think I don't think either party could say, "Oh, we lost to a third party candidate."
so
Um,
Tracy, just to interrupt for just a second. I'm you said that the solution was third party, and then
yeah,
you spent most of this last amount of time saying why even the third party can't be successful. So it brings us back to where I was in the beginning.
right. And here, and again, this is what the case that we have to make is, hey, send us to Congress because we're going to change things.
Yes,
Because
but
you can't change anything. You have to have a you have
you
to
got
have
to
a
get in the game. Yeah,
yes, you can't if you're talking
but
about just working within the realm of political politics, you can't make a change until you get elected to office. You have
so
to actually win
think
the
of this
seat
though.
to get to office.
Part of inherent to what both of our arguments is that vote blue no matter who has not served anyone except for the moneyed interest. It has not served the voters who need help or need to be represented. At least I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm pretty sure we agree there,
Yeah,
right?
we agree on that.
Okay. So we're not going to vote red because you might as well be unalive as far as political positioning for the black community is concerned. So then we're looking at the purple. So you might as well vote purple even if they can't help you. Like, because if we're talking about, because what you're basically just laid out in a way is just vote for anybody third party. So that means you got constitutional, you got libertarian, you got green, you got justice for now or for all. I mean, you got all these different things, but none of them are actually in cohesion or an agreement. So you've not achieved anything for the people who
Well,
need you.
and I'm gonna disagree with that, and this is why I'm gonna disagree. Again, we're talking about federal, we're not talking about city council, we're talking about the federal offices, United States Senate
Yeah,
presidents, those are
you're right.
Congress, anything from Congress above. When you're
Okay.
talking about, when I'm talking about elect third low key, if I had a libertarian and a Democrat on the same ballot, I'm not saying I would vote for the libertarian person, but I would highly consider it.
But you and I have both, and you have much more experience than even I do, have experience interacting with the libertarians and how they view politics.
Yeah, I'm not saying I
In
would
what
vote for them,
way?
but I'm saying
Wait.
I would think about it.
In what way have the libertarians presented to you a political a plan that would better serve the black community than the Democratic Party.
Here's what I would say. And again, like I said I would consider. I didn't say I do it, but here's what I would consider. When I talk to libertarians, the one thing I can say about any libertarian, I could literally insult them right to their face and say, "You got the dumbest campaign I've ever seen. You're not going to win. You don't have any chance to win." And you know what they'll do? They'll tell me reasons why they can win.
Yes, but that's fine because in really their politics line up with Republican politics. Well, I'm sorry, they line up more with conservative politics.
Yeah, they're more conservative.
Right. But the thing is, that's their case to make why they should still win. You're advocating for third as a solution, though. And I am saying that all of these different groups within third party, a good chunk of them mean nothing good to the black communities, which what I'm interested in. But the black community, the community with persons with disabilities, the elder community, because like the libertarians would be horrible for elders, be horrible for poor people, because their policies essentially are, let's go colorblind, start from here, and let's go, and let the strongest win. That's really, really bad for weak or under serviced or undercapitalized communities. So it's like I look at it, I'm sorry, I don't want to spend too much time in it, but it's just, I'm going to go back to what I was saying. First of all, as a community, we need to start deciding a few things that are our priorities, because we don't even know where we're headed. We just keep trying to jump between these parties, hoping that by choosing the right party, we'll get to somewhere better. And I'm going to go with what I put in this graphic. And I did all of this intentionally. It took me a long time to build this thing with AI. The reason why I put all three buses going off to the burning city in the distance is because one might get you there faster than the other. But where they're currently functioning, none of them mean anything good for us, because none of them really have to listen to our politics. The Democrats, they just want us to vote, and they feel like they're entitled. The Republicans, they want us not to vote so that their numbers have more value. The third party, depending upon the third party you're talking to, they may have an agenda that involves the Black community. But if they do, they may not have one for the queer community. Or if they got one for the queer community, they may not have one for the disabled community. It's not like they're just walking in lockstep towards, we want to do something better for the people. Third party is very fractured. And that's a different video conversation because we've touched on it in the past. But I'm presenting to everyone that for the Black community, and not just the Black community and similarly aligned groups and communities. So like the queer community, the disabled community, the Latino community, the second generation immigrant community, right? Our interests are pretty much shared in many aspects. We differ in various others. But if we want to change the game, we got to change how we're coming at it. And I advocate, and I will make the case here in just a moment, why it's time to shift our focus away from Democrat, Republican versus third party. Vote for whatever you want to do at this point. But our focus needs to be what you see on the right: education, community, and economics. Because until we have leverage, until we can engage with these political parties from a position of strength, saying, hey, this is the money that you stand to lose if you don't represent us. Hey, this is the economic or political ramifications if you don't represent us. Until we're able to do that, all three of them will continue to play with us the way they have been. So let's move into what I mean, though, when I'm talking about building leverage, right? I'm sorry, did you want to say anything else on that before I? Oh, okay. So one of the things I mentioned, and I'm probably going to take some of these issues and really pull them out and do a dedicated series or video on. But when I say building leverage, I am talking about building a Black voting and economic bloc. And I think that this is much more beneficial to us than continuing to hope that the Democrats will somehow do something for us when they've shown that their commitment is to really just using us, or going to the Republicans and hoping they'll do something for us when they've already shown they want to do stuff to us. And with all due respect, because I am interested in the third party world, I just don't think they're ready in the moment to serve my purposes. I ain't even going to entertain them because they can't do anything for me just yet. We have to keep doing things. We have to keep building the third party. But that's the political side. How do we make sure that we can bend these parties to our will? How do we make sure that when we speak, they have to listen? And to me, that is, we build the Black coalition structure. This is the, Marlon told me not to use this term, but I haven't come up with a better one. So it's like the shadow government that I presented a year or more ago. This is where the Black communities, we start to build our own networks of how we communicate and advocate for ourselves amongst ourselves. So that when we, let's say something is happening in Texas, like what's happening with the young man that you mentioned to me before we started, Tracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, Texas is on its own and hoping that other people care and will cry out, but there's not much we can do out here on the East Coast or in the Midwest other than share it on social media, talk about how this is an injustice and all of that. But we really can't do much else, right? This is Texas's fight, is more or less how it ends up shaking out. Well, we have a number of people in Mississippi now that have been found hanging from trees. Okay. So that means Mississippi or the South has to fight that battle. The Northeast, Southeast, not Southeast, but the Northeast, Midwest, and all, they can't do anything really more than share the story and talk about it because there's no power. Okay. So this speaks to all of that. Now, one of the things you mentioned early on, Tracy, is you had said, like, we're not a monolith, right? And this, in my view, does speak a little bit to that. The Black community, in my opinion, we do have certain shared objectives and shared goals, as you saw on the previous slide, right? Economics and criminal justice reform and rebuilding our community and things like that. So those would be like our planks. Those are our national agenda items. But then based on where you are in the nation, where that our community is in the nation, we may have different interests or different objectives, right? You may have in the Midwest where we have a lot of Black farmers or Black laborers, but their interests and what they need from their government doesn't look identical to what I need out here in Atlanta. Right? In Atlanta, my issue may be housing discrimination and criminal justice because, police brutality and stuff. So each of these regions would have representatives. Actually, let me start from the bottom because I really want to build it from the bottom up. So starting at like the county level, doesn't necessarily have to be county, it can be city or whatever, but for the ease of discussion, starting from the county level, then we have our own indirect votes to elect, let's say, 4 representatives from each county in each state, and they go to state level meetings where all those different county representatives, they come together once a quarter or twice a year, something like that. And they debate and discuss and try to form and craft policy and decide how we can employ the resources we do have and the leverage that we do have, right, to push things in our state the way that that state needs it. And they're working with others in the region, right? So now you have the Southeast. So that'd be all the states in the Southeast. All those representatives are doing this almost like a United Nations for the Black community. Because we're not all going to be speaking the same thing. We're not all going to have the same interests at an individual or community level. But once you get to the larger community, we do have a lot of things that do overlap. So let's say the Northwest has what's an issue they might have up there? It might be something around the lines of pollution. You know, like a lot of times they put the dumps and stuff in our communities. They do that nationally. But let's say that's their issue. Okay. They then would only have to work with or reach out to these other 4 or 5 regions and say, hey, we need your help here. And this is how you can help it here. And then we discuss it and we debate it and things like that. And now we can put together an economic boycott if that's what we want to do. We can flood money in there to help with local protests and things like that. But it's able to be organized, it's able to be tracked and accounted for. And it's not static because we vote you in, we vote you out. It's up to us how we set that schedule up. Right? So I said a whole lot of stuff, but you get where I'm going with this, Tracy?
I get where you're going, but I got a whole lot of questions on this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so you're talking about starting this. I think this has been done before. I'm almost teetering on saying Marcus Garvey talked about doing something similar, but I might be wrong. I might be wrong. Don't quote me, everybody, because my brain is kind of scattered today. But
well, there are. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Answer that question first, because I'm thinking this is
overlaps.
not a new idea.
There are definitely overlaps because there are no new ideas. I truly believe there are no new ideas. So Marcus Garvey, he was the founder and the leader of the UNIA, and that to this day is still the largest Black only organization that this nation has ever had. Okay, so yes, there's that, and he focused on economics and things like that, building your community, respecting your women, respecting your men, protecting your children, having pride in your identity as Africans in America, being part of the Pan-African identity, meaning that all things point towards Africa. So no matter where you are in the world, you are still an African, right? That's Marcus Garvey. Out of that, we have a legacy line where you have the Nation of Islam, because Elijah Muhammad was a Garveyite. Malcolm X's parents were Garveyites. So that we have that legacy. So yeah, absolutely. Everything I say is built on the shoulders of something that's already been worked on.
And then second question is like, okay, because I'm like, well, how would you even start this? What region would you concentrate? Well, obviously you're in the South. So are you reaching out to I guess I'm asking, how are you reaching out for those different contacts? And well, shoot, let me start out with this. How you going to reach out to people in Georgia and then expand it to South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee? Like I guess I'm asking, how do you reach out to them? What is it that you're looking? Are there meetings? I guess that's what I want to know. I want to know more of the structural, like how would you start this?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
and that's not a question. That's just me rambling. I'm just like, and
no, because I believe in chasing solutions, right? So, couple of my ideas towards it is one, piggybacking off of what you had just mentioned. There's people already doing this. So if we gain some traction, right? So social media always factors into everything because it's how we talk to more people quicker. but you start to gain some traction, and then someone who's popular, right? I'm going to name some names just to put them out there. You know, Killer Mike comes out with it. Obama says something about it. Jasmine says something about
Wait
it.
a minute.
Odds
Now
are
you
they
got
won't
to,
because they're political creatures.
yeah,
But
you
uh,
would get Killer Mike, you have better
yeah,
no,
but I'm just naming prominent people that
your name is
if
prominent.
they say something, you got people who will entertain it just because they said it, right? So you get some of them interested. You get the local level and community level and so forth activists who already are working on this in some way. You tie in with many of the mutual benefit organizations that are already growing and built and popping up all over the place, and that starts to gel together. The biggest obstacle I see to what I'm presenting here is we still struggle with identity. Um, like you got FBA fighting Friedman fighting ADOS fighting African American fighting Black. You got Black immigrants. Like we're all chasing these identities and trying to determine whose Black identity is the right one, and that can really get in the way of things like this. Then you have religion, right? So um, if you got a prominent Black atheist, right, how effective will he or she be in gaining traction with the Black church or the Black mosque, right? Um,
Right.
but that's why I think those same issues are some of the same reasons why I say this can work, because the Black church will naturally, as they see value in this, they'll naturally start to pull together their power base, and they will be like, well, the Black Christian Coalition in Georgia says that, right? So they'll start to put some of their weight in, and all of this is based on multiple pieces. So it's not like we're all coming at it from a political lens, because as I said, this ain't about politics per se. This is about creating leverage and building leverage. So this is where we start to
Right.
pour into each other economically. We start building our businesses. We start resurrecting our churches. We start rebuilding social groups, things like that. All of that filters in, all of that feeds into this. And that's how it spreads. That's how it spreads. And how we keep it together, it's going to take a bigger brain than mine, but we'd have to set up some form of an electoral process. And all the framework is there for us, because all you have to do is copy what America did to become America. When America was starting out, they had the 13 colonies. That, relatively speaking, that they might as well be on the opposite side of the world in some cases, because they had to ride a horse to get wherever they were going. So the infrastructure is technically there. We have to build it and make it better. The concept is definitely there. It's been done by humanity multiple times across the globe, and its strongest inspiration came right out of America. So let's take it and shape it to serve our needs, our purposes. Did I just bore you to death?
No, I'm just trying to get this, soak it all in. Because this is a big idea. Right.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's
Yeah, this
where
is massive. This is massive. But I love it so much because, like, the nation, let's talk education, because that's my hobby horse. That's what I love the most. So the nation looks at education and it says, leave it to the states, and the federal government will just throw a little money here and there to shore up some of the gaps. but the states make up their own rules. Okay. In my biased opinion, states' rights is one of the most dangerous phrases
Absolutely.
to ever be uttered, especially as it impacts the Black community and other communities like ours.
Great.
So, yeah. So, if that's how the federal government looks at it, they look at education, national, but we're not going to pay attention to it, push it down to the states, whatever the states do, and we'll deal with whatever bad thing happens out of that. Fine. But from our standpoint, we know that our children are disciplined differently across the
Hmm.
nation. Across the nation, our children are disciplined differently. They're punished out of sync with their peers. And let's just say, using a term that you used a little earlier, all things being equal, let's say all of us honestly are just like getting the same resources and the same opportunities. We know that's not true, but let's
And we know
say,
that I'm like, well, it don't really
yeah, but let's
happen,
say
but
that that was the case. Then how this model fits either way is we're saying, you know what? It doesn't matter what the federal government says about education. It doesn't matter what the states say about education. We're basically, in a way, coming at this the way that the Christian church might come at education. Our children are going to go and get the education that is the law of the land. Fine. That's part of us being a citizen here. But
great.
we have priorities that our community needs to have addressed. We don't need our children to just go to school. We need more doctors and lawyers, and we need more architects, and we need more engineers. And we need these things so that we can build stronger businesses, bigger businesses that'll create more wealth, that employ more of our people. And the only way to get there is you got to create an education pipeline. So this model says, all right, we're going to work with the Southeast. The Southeast, they have a bit of a deficit on education funding, but the Northeast has a little extra in that area. Fine. What we'll do is we're going to help fund educational programs tailored to our community across the Southeast. And then what the Southeast then in turn does is when their children are able to go to college or go into trade or go into employment, they might go to the Northeast and take jobs that have been set aside for them so that we go up there, help create wealth for the people up there in the Northeast. And it just kind of builds on each other. So the different regions have different interests, different strengths, different opportunities, and we're able to coordinate because we have our representative structure to move resources and to shift priorities as a group. And before it's even said, of course, we don't agree on everything. And of course, we're going to have a lot of competition because competition is good and it's natural. So that's where it, in a way, think of each of these regions at the top row. Think of them almost like them being their own nations. That's why I use the United Nations metaphor, because we're going to set up trade agreements and different types of power sharing agreements and things.
Is this within the structure of the government that we have now?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here comes my next question. I knew I had it. So, as much as I agree with this, my concern would be look at what happened to the Black Panther Party, right? You had literally the government infiltrating them to destroy them from the inside.
Absolutely.
I can't I don't know how you safeguard against that, but I'm just saying as you go about doing this, keep that in mind because yeah, the government they just aren't friendly. Although it makes perfect sense to me. Oh well, yeah, people in the Southeast aren't getting as much money for their schools, but then what about the people that go to public schools that are funded by traditional property taxes, like Indiana? We fund our schools using property taxes. I'm assuming you're talking about schools that would be started for Black children. I'm just going to assume that's
That,
what you're talking
that
about,
would be a
but I don't
that'd be
know.
a part of it. That'd be a part of it. But think of it. Here's a great way to consume that thought though. So all of this is happening within America under the purview of the laws of America. Right? We're not trying to set up anything that's going to fight against the government. That's not that's not what this is about. This is about building solidarity across our community. All right. So a great way to feed off of what you just said. Southeast public schools, okay? Underfunded because it's based on property taxes. Down here, a lot of the area, that means these schools ain't got no money. Okay. Now, what does that mean? What does that matter to someone who lives in Oregon? Currently, it means nothing. Under this structure, though, it could be a business opportunity. So, someone in Oregon or a group in Oregon, they pull together their money to start businesses focused on education in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, right? They're starting these tutoring programs and after school programs and charter schools and all that, but they're doing it from a business position. They're investing in the South to build these things with an economic intention, but they're doing it also to benefit part of their coalition. So the people down here in the South, they get the benefit of supplemental education opportunities that they have to pay for, right? But they pay for it in a way from their own pockets, of course, but also from small consolidated donations across the entire structure, right? So now Oregon's making money, happy. South is getting better education, happy. When the people leave the South, they head north, they head west, they head to the Midwest for opportunities. They're better skilled, they're better trained, because part of this whole thing is we are investing in the economic and structures that matter to us. So when these
Right.
people leave, they're making money for other people. They become employees in some of these other places. So it all comes together. It's all a big ecosystem. The hardest part is getting it started. That's the number one hurdle.
Yeah, because I was like, how you gonna get it started? Because you always have to start locally. If you're gonna start any type of things like this, it always has to start out local. Always,
Yeah,
always, always, always.
absolutely. But I'm saying there's a lot of locals already doing things like this, but perhaps coming across this content, or someone who's better at presenting this content than myself, coming across it and saying, "Yeah, we could do that." They may never talk to me, but they're like, "Yeah, we could do
Or
that."
yeah,
Right?
it's like mutual aid to the next level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's operating with purpose and intention. Now, you did raise a super important part. It's not like the people around us are just going to sit back and
Yeah,
let
be
this
like, yeah,
happen,
look at them, they're doing great. Yeah, right.
right?
Okay, sure. Yeah, we know
Because
our
they're going to
government.
start changing zoning laws. They're going to say that we're doing something communist, or there's so many, the attacks will come. Okay. Because as our group moves, because this is all about improving our relative positioning in the nation. So presently, we sit at the second to the bottom rung in this country. The only people who have it worse than us as a demographic group are the Native Americans. They're the only ones behind us at this point. So if we start to move up, guess what that means, right? If fourth place passes third place, fourth place becomes third and third becomes fourth. Fourth ain't gonna be happy about that, right? And not only is fourth not gonna be happy about that, but first and second aren't gonna
Yeah,
like the fact
second,
that
yeah,
somebody's
first place
moving up
not
behind
gonna
them.
yeah, first place definitely is not gonna like it because now you trenching into their territory. This was
Right,
ours first. You don't come to us. We
And,
tell you what to do.
and we know how first place functions because they have a clear history of what they do when someone else dares to succeed without their assistance, direction, or support. And then if you
Yeah,
do it with their direction, with their assistance and support, they still have strings attached, and they're ready to hurt you later.
and that's what was going to be my second question is you said black voter block, but
Yes,
in this structure, what about non-black people?
they do whatever they want to.
Okay, so this is black only. This is what I want to make sure I'm
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah, this is black.
Okay, I just
Now,
want to make sure I'm understanding because mm, I got it.
yeah, now this is black. That's what I've built it on because my focus is black. But this could be expanded or and you know how we are. We're very inclusive. So it won't take but a heartbeat before it becomes black and brown or something. But yeah, my vision is black because I'm trying to say we are too fragmented. As
We are.
a
I agree.
as a group, we function very individualized, right? We share our grievances, but we don't share our strengths. So I'm trying to say, how do we leverage some of these things that we have, bring them together, and actually have it move forward? And part of
Hmm.
what this will end up doing, not only is it touch on the economic thing I told you about, touches on the academic thing I told you about, which also helps economics,
Right.
but it creates solidarity. So if someone does decide that they're going to target one of our communities in the Northeast, the entire rest of the nation responds because we're tied
Right.
together and we have vested interests. Right now, we don't have vested interests in each other. So you can go knock off one of us in one place and, you know,
Pretty much be successful.
right. So this would tie us together with that. It ties us, and one of the things that ties you closest together than anybody else is money. So when you
Yep,
go
it sure
mess with
does.
you messing with my ability to generate income up here, yeah, I'm gonna pay attention to that, you know.
Yep.
And it
Yep, that
also
was what
creates political leverage. So that's the other part.
well, that I just would assume would happen. But y- I don't even know how to, I mean, the only thing I can even think of, that's a suggestion, is, and I hate to go way, 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 way back, audience, but there was a time where I opened my big mouth. If you remember a couple years ago, maybe in the 2016, 2018, there were a bunch of Medicare for All marches across the United States. And why people don't think marches are great, I do, because I think that's a good time to get a lot of people together and a lot of time and get education, but that's okay. Okay, so anyway,
Yeah,
for some reason, Indiana did not have a march. I don't know why. I I was just starting to become really annoyed. And then it was like my mind was saying, well, why don't you plan it? Don't tell me how I came to this conclusion, but yeah, I jumped to the why don't you why don't you plan a conclusion? So I think one of the most helpful things I did was I started identifying people on social media, like that were local. It's like, well, who can I talk to? And I think if you start local and just identify 6 or 7 mutual aid groups and say, hey, we can meet up on once a month on this Sunday or Saturday, whatever day you want to make it, and go from there because it'll grow. It definitely will.
yeah,
I mean, if you think about it, the No Kings March started from 2 people upset about the election, and look how many 100,000 million people showed up to that.
yeah. I firmly believe that there are a lot of people who, if they had the opportunity to hear what I'm saying, they would be like, yeah. Their biggest objection or concern would be, but how? Right. And that's where a lot of us get stuck. It's like, but how? Like, that's so big. There's no way that's going to happen. So, yeah, great idea, guy. But like you said, it's not like you don't have to launch this from the national position.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
just start
you
right
launch
in your
this
own community.
in your community. Yes. Right. I have a couple of projects that I've launched and I'm working on through my other business that feeds into this. But our United Core, which is my other business, that's all about revenue and actually doing the work. Over here, Complex Mind, this is my thinking lab. This is where I present ideas, explore ideas, challenge ideas, and some make it, some don't. It is what it is, right? But I think that this is something that could be powerful and can work. And yes, it will be attacked. Yes, it will be infiltrated. Um, there's no organization of any real size that is not infiltrated and not under attack. So you have to build everything with that in mind. If you don't think someone's going to come after it, then that means whatever you're building isn't worth anything. So
Right.
yeah,
Or co-opting.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, so now I'm going to move to the next one, which may be our last one. I haven't decided yet, but let's talk about the pipeline. All right, so hard to read the graphic. Don't even try to do it. I mean, you can do it because
Oh,
we're just talking.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So this is more for the people at home at your leisure. Pause it, blow it up. But it's the things that we've pretty much already kind of talked about. All right. But I'm saying that we're going to shift the dynamic in a major way. And this takes a community identity. This is saying that, remember when I said earlier in the very first, well, the slide with the buses, and it said undefined whatever it was, right? This is one of the things we're after. We're going to save our children, we're going to build our communities, and we're going to create an economic base that allows us to have leverage in politics, in business, and in our personal lives. Okay. We have all, if you're black, you know about the school to prison pipeline. And we've known about it since forever. It's
Right.
been a term probably since the 90s, maybe 80s, 90s. But that is what our adversaries, our competition, that's what they've put in place for us. And that's going to
Right.
continue to run, honestly, no matter what we do. But what we can do is set up an alternate pipeline and be intentional about it. And we don't have to start from scratch because we've already had the legacy and the blueprint for how to do this.
Right.
W.E.B. Du Bois, no matter how you feel about him, Marcus Garvey, Elijah Muhammad, even Martin Luther King in his own way. But basically, what in our historically black colleges and our black Greek letter organizations, they're on that green side. Okay. But these are intentional effort. And I like to use gravity to paint a picture in people's mind. If you have a boulder rolling down a hill, the easiest thing for that boulder to do is to continue to roll downhill, right?
Right.
So that means that it's gaining momentum, it's gaining more force as long as it's continue to roll down. That's the school to prison pipeline. It's rolling and it's going to continue to pick up speed and it's going to continue to do worse damage because as it goes, it becomes scarier and harder to intervene. Because if you try to get in the way of what they're doing to our children, and by them doing it to our children, it means they're doing it to us as adults. So if you try to get in the way of that, guess what what will happen? That means the police have to become more aggressive in finding ways to arrest and harass you because you're affecting their budget. And if you're affecting their budget because you're not committing crimes, then they need to create more crimes so that they can make sure they're protecting their budget. That is historical, it's documented truth, it's what they've done. That's how you went from the slave codes to the black codes, right? We know what will happen. But instead of us continuing to get in the way of it intentionally as a community, get in the way of it to protect our children so that, hey, the ones that just choose to be in the crosshairs, hey, there's not a lot we can do about that. But we can try to keep as many of our children out of the line. Don't line up to help the people who are trying to come get you. But if you want that to be the case, we have to give them something else to do. It's not enough to tell a child don't do drugs. It's not enough to tell a child be a nice person. It's not enough to tell a child to do their homework and try to learn more than whatever is being presented to you in class. It's not enough.
Mm-mm.
You have to get with that child. And even if it's not your child, let's say your child's good to go. Like my children, they're good to go, right? But that means I need to reach out to another child or more and intervene in their lives the way I intervene in my own children's lives. That is what the other side is. That is the building the enterprise pipeline comes from. And I touched on this in the segment that you hosted for us, Tracy, where I was saying you got middle school kids and high school kids. If we're tied in as a community, then we either have a good relationship with the teachers and the administrators of the school, or we have a good relationship with the parents, or we're volunteering and working with these kids directly. Someone is able to identify the talents and gifts of so many of these children, because we have a lot of talent in our children, and say, okay, this is one that might be a great lawyer. This is one that might be a great doctor. This is one that is mechanically inclined and can be an engineer or some other type of tradesman or something like that. You identify that in a child who's 14 years old. Just think of what that does. And I'll tell you what it does, because I've had touches of it. What that does is it gets a child that goes to school every day, who's trying to do what they're supposed to do. They may have things that they have to juggle that you don't even have to think about. And that child who's already on the edge of, why am I here? I'm in school every day. None of this stuff matters. I'm not going to use it when I graduate.
Great.
Ain't no power on at the house. I got to get out here after I finish school. I got to go pick up my little brother or my little sister, make sure they got something to eat. You know what I'm saying? I go to the library in order to do the homework because I can't take it straight to the house. All these things going on. That child is a heartbeat away from just saying, forget it, I'm going to go and hustle because I need the money. Well, if you identify that this is one of those children that we said has promise in one of these areas that we were talking about, then the community, which goes to the prior slide we were talking about, has a storehouse of money and an administrative system set up to where we can help that child make sure that at least core needs are met. We can't take over running somebody's household, but we can invest in that child. That child might want to play football, but he can't pay the academic fees. I mean, the athletic fees, right? We can help with that. Keep that child engaged, keep that child occupied. But not only that, you are giving a child an opportunity to say, hey, the reason I need you to graduate is because you see how you just managed to build that machine and nobody really taught you how to do it. You just figured that out. You understood current and you understood these things. You can make millions if we can just get you through school and get you some more dedicated training. I'm going to pair you with a mentor. I'm going to make sure that you get what you need. And now you guide that child through. So now that child isn't just trying to graduate high school, which is what most kids are doing. Most kids are like, well, I just got to finish high school. Now that child is trying to gain education and knowledge because they're trying to build something, be something, do something. If you really get a chance to engage with some of our wealthier or wealthiest people, their children are given missions. Their children are given expectations.
Yep.
Graduating high school, that's not even like on the list of to-do items. Like you're going to do that anyway. So
Right.
as a community, we should tie in, and we got to really be intentional about building that green line, that enterprise pipeline, where they're looking at our children, looking at their test scores when they're in the third grade and deciding how many prisons to build. Well, if we want to change that dynamic, we need to go and engage our children in second grade so that they're doing gangbusters better in third grade, which then tells the government to build less prisons. It just goes together. So
I see where
this,
you're going.
yeah, and I did a lot of talking. What do you think?
No, like I said, I think you presented a lot of things to marinate on. I, I don't have anything to add. I just wish I could see it so I could read it. So I'm like, what that say? But
Does that help?
no, no, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I definitely am for the core idea. I definitely am because we need that. Because our government is not going to help us. Period. Point blank. They're not. They're not set up to help us. They don't want to help us. You have one party that has clearly said, "Hey, let's take off 2 million people off of Medicare Part D." No thoughts as to how they're going to pay for it. No cares. Just take them off. It costs too much.
Yeah.
So
But here's the thing.
our government has proven. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, think about this though. Would they ever clearly target programs and support systems for the Jewish community in America?
Probably not.
Right? They won't do it. They're so the government is so sensitive to the needs of the Jewish community. I'm just using them as an example. So sensitive to their needs that a governor, a candidate for governor or Senate in Michigan has to say what they would do or how they would view New York politics. It's so sensitive that the incoming mayor of New York had to deal with questions. Oh, bug got in my house. He has to deal with questions about Israel, even though he's going to be the mayor of New York.
New York City. Like
I bring that up because what the not only the nation of Israel, but with the Jewish population here in America, what they have that we don't have is leverage.
Yep, now that I agree with.
If they decide to take their money out of the Democratic Party, that's a problem.
And the Republican Party.
Yeah, but I mean, they do it on both sides. But I'm saying, like, that's their leverage. They have incredible wealth that they have created here in America by building businesses and infrastructure that serves their community. They have schools that are dedicated to their children. Their children some of them go to public school. And when school's out, they go home. But on Saturday, guess what they're doing?
They're in Sabbath school.
Right? So why aren't we doing these things? One, we don't have the resources. Fine. But you know how you get the resources? You start doing the things that the people with resources did. And so we have this in our DNA. We have this. We have the Black Panther Party before they were able to smear and twist them into thinking they're this big violent thing. But they steal from us what they want to. WIC from us. Yep. Breakfast program, that was us.
That was Black Panthers.
Right?
And yeah, I'll quote Dr. Cornel West. They want our rhythm, but not our blues.
Right. They want your presence, but they don't want your participation.
Yep. Don't want to sit over there, shut up, go away.
Right. You're welcome to be in the space, but be quiet. And if you're not going to be quiet, then you need to sound like me. You need to I need to See you, but hear me. That's basically
You have,
how.
you have an advisor to the president, Stephen Miller, that says he only wants white people in the country.
Yes,
Who does he think built this? Like, I'm like, you do
I can answer that
realize
for you.
you.
Stephen Miller believes that white people built this country. And the reason why he can say that is because you don't give credit to the crane for building building a building. You don't give credit to the landscaper for building a building. You give credit to the developer. You give credit to the owner. So in his view, white America built America. It doesn't matter how they did it. The fact is they did it. And we can argue against it all we want to. It won't change his mind. But our responsibility is not to change his mind. Our responsibility was to have done the things that I talked about tonight before this so that we would have had leverage to not let them get in office in the first place. If other parts of America was worried about what the Black community would do if they did not support our needs, then they would have voted a different way. But they didn't have to because we can't do anything. Right?
Yeah, and it's just a, there's a point where it's like, okay, why am I doing this? Why? What for what reason? Just stop. You're never gonna fight. But then if you don't fight, if you just sit by and watch things happen,
it just gets worse.
it's like it gets worse. So that would be, people listening out there, and I'll share this on my Patreon page, in my other social pages. Um, we have to do something, right? Because the American, like I said, our government has proven it doesn't like us. They don't care about us. If it was up to them, they would just make up useless wars, overthrow, um, advocate for regime changes. They would take away all the SNAP and all the Medicaid and all the Medicare. It would just all be gone.
But here's what I would say. All of those things continue to be important because we care about people.
Right.
That's where our common tie is with all these different groups that we kind of mentioned earlier or we have talked about previously. That's what we have common ground with DSA, with Green Party, with the Christian church that actually is Christian, with the Muslim mosques that actually are Muslim, right? We have common cause with these different areas of society because all of these different areas of society care about people. They want to do right by people. What I'm talking about in today's session is how we would have less of a reliance on these very things that they're messing with. Like if we had less of a reliance on housing assistance, on medical assistance, on all these different things, then would we still be impacted? Absolutely. Would we be impacted the way that we're about to be impacted? No. So if we had more businesses that were scalable to where we can actually employ more members of our community, then less members of our community would be subject to unemployment. If we had more schools that actually educated our children ourselves, like these Montessori schools do for their children, then whatever they're doing with public schools, we would still be impacted, but we'd be less impacted. So I'm not saying that we turn away from any of these things. And I'm not even saying that we turn away from politics. What I am saying, though, is we haven't been playing politics actively up till now. We've just been kind of in it. So keep being in it. Keep voting however your motivation is. I would prefer, given where we are right now, that your interest would be harm mitigation, that for at least this election, you'll look at it and be like, I don't want that, so I'm going to do something different this time, but I'm only doing it this time, literally this time. And then the next time, I'm going to be even more egregious. I'm going to just not do nothing or something, whatever you might decide to do. But that's not the game. Like, that's not where you're going to find your victory. My case that I'm making is where you will find your victory is going after the what I had in, come on, there is going after education, community, and economics. That's where your victory is. Because keep doing the political part. Because you're in America, that's the only voice you kind of have. Okay. But
Right.
get over here, get on the correct lane, and build the leverage so that when we come back or we engage harder, we can say to the Democrats, you will do this thing because we fund you. Right now, all we can say to you is we vote for you. We can go to the third party and say, you know what? No, all this, pie in the sky and everything else, fine, but I want my platform. Build the platform that speaks to the things that I care about, and let's go. And then we will fund you. Right now, everybody has the ability to ignore us because the only thing we have is our vote. That's it.
And our dollar.
We kind of have our dollar. We kind of have our
do.
dollar.
If we withheld it, I mean,
Well,
I used the Target boycott, which I think could have been done a lot better. I mean, there's many criticisms I will have about Target boycott. However, I think that can be a launch point
yes.
to, hey, you want to act a fool? Okay, I'm gonna show you what a fool acts like. I'm not, I'm not gonna spend money at. Although I did go to Starbucks yesterday. I know I did. It was right there.
I get it.
But what I guess I'm getting at is um we've got to we have to be smarter in what we're doing. And I guess because I know when I vote, I have I have well now it's six. There are six things that I will demand of any candidate. I don't care what office that they're running for. If you can't meet all six, then I'm not voting for you. Now, that could mean in some years, like this one, where I really went back and forth, I was like, nobody met all six. And I'm like, well, maybe I
And
shouldn't vote.
the thing about that, and I've given you a hard time about that over time, but you won't hear that from me now because I'm going to say something that's very controversial, um, and it sits below the things that I've pushed back about with independent and third party voters and with party voters, because to me we're all the same. Um, Here's the thing: for Black voters, you want to vote on your principles, okay. You want to, you got 3 things, 5 things, 6 things, 10 things, and if there's not all of them don't get checked off, you're not gonna vote for them. Okay. Vote what matters to you. Now it will be difficult when you come talk to me later when we're talking about what matters to you, and you say that women's rights matters to you, and you did something contrary to women's rights. But I'm like this here. Our vote will not win an election. So do what you feel is best. Everybody out there, do what you feel is best. But in the meantime, please consider the things I shared tonight. Please consider how we can do whatever you want to do on the politics side. Because I as I said in the men's Black male voter thing, we passed this. Like the Black vote, it's not that it doesn't matter, it's just that it doesn't matter as much as it used to. So do whatever you want to, but please, guys, let's focus on getting some leverage. Let's focus on getting some influence so that whatever it is that you are doing politically, we can do it together, right? Maybe we can do it together. Maybe we can as a community, a national community, we instead of just 80% of us or whatever the right number is, but let's say 80% of us, instead of just 80% of us voting for the Democrats because we don't know where else to go vote. Imagine if 80% of us voted for the Green Party at every position in the state, every state. Is it going to be perfect? maybe not perfect, but it'll be a lot Green Party.
Is you froze there because I was like, you said it'd be a lot better, and then you froze.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't even know quite where I was in it, but if the structure I shared with you, the national UN type thing, okay? Can you still hear me? Okay.
I can hear you
So
now.
so think of it from that national thing that we were talking about at length. If we all decided based on our representative strength and we say we're all going to go Green Party, we're not just doing it the same way we would do it for Democrats, where we're just voting Democrat. No, we have infiltrated that party. That party must yield to what we say, because no matter what our numbers are, we're national, and what we do together. There's, by the numbers, the Jewish community in America is not that big, but when they move largely together. The Asian communities, I don't know too much about them because they've kind of moved in the shadows a lot, because they're basically like, yo, we're just gonna do what we need to do. y'all had that political stuff, right? But I'm just saying, like, we really should entertain some of the ideas I shared, I believe. And I'm going to do other videos. I say I'm going to do other videos. I hope I do. Going to each of these points, but as their own video, and nowhere near as long as this. So I'm done. Anything that you want to wrap with, or you want to talk about your program or future programs?
I have a bunch of interviews coming up. But join me tomorrow for the Sunday show. Like I said, I will be talking about Carmelo Anthony not getting a new trial. I'm gonna talk about some unrealistic. Indiana, of course, has had major flooding. In Gary, Indiana, a city in Northwest Indiana, 75% Black, has not had power in 10 days. And for some reason, they're expecting a family that hasn't lived there for 50 years to intervene. And I don't quite understand that, because I'm like, they left years ago, but I'll talk about that. Um, I might get into some Trump's stalker, Trump's alleged stalker. Yeah, I might get into that and how it's a distraction. And I definitely am going to talk about why or how I think the Democrats could win the Senate, but probably won't because they really don't want to.
Cool,
That's my
cool. Well, looking
that's
forward to
here
it.
for tomorrow.
Yeah, it's horrible what's happening out there in Gary, and it's also been happening across the country. It doesn't always get coverage. And welcome to America, where if you're under this
I
guy.
mean, they did, yeah, they did. Well, I was going to say the government did the same thing to the people in Palestine, Ohio, and that was
Yeah,
95% white.
yeah. It's about, if you're poor, they don't care. That's one.
Yeah, if you're
Um,
poor, it's like, well, who are you?
and then also keep in mind that, and this is for everybody out there, keep in mind with this administration, they gutted FEMA to redirect the funds to other programs and projects. So there's no money to fund the intervention and the resources that these people need. Puerto Rico still didn't have water. So we got Puerto Rico with no water. We got Indiana with floods and no power. I want to say Texas had flooding not too long ago. Remember what happened in Palestine and Ohio. Then you had all the flooding in North Carolina. Like, this administration has been very clear about where their priorities are. And they're even now currently speaking about trying to find a way to give the wealthiest people another
That's
cut.
right. Yes. Yeah.
So this life has consequences. We made decisions as a nation, and we're going to have to deal with those consequences. And this is what it is. This is an unpopular thing, but this is what my dad taught me, and this is what I teach my children. You're going to do whatever you're going to do when you're doing it. When the consequences come, they're here. Right? And what we're dealing with right now are people who did not think about consequences beforehand. Now the consequences are here. You can't change them. You cannot change what's happening right now. But just like those prior actions are giving us these results, our current actions will give us the next set of results. So if we get to work, if we focus on what we want, if we do what I was saying with this video, with this thing, undefined destination, we got to get some ideas, folks. We got to decide what the hell we after. Because I'm just saying, we can't just keep wandering through things. I love this picture. That's why I keep using it. We can't just keep wandering through life hoping it all works out. That's not how life works. It works on cause and effect, consequences to actions. So let's change our actions so we can have better consequences. And good luck, everybody out there. I know it's tough. It's hard. And thank you for watching this video. If you made it to the end, again, please like, share, subscribe. And there'll be some more to come. But y'all have a good one.